One of the richest countries on earth is quietly running out of young people. Not money, not machines, people. Germany spent half a century having fewer babies than it needed, and the generation in charge kept spending as if that bill would never arrive. It arrives within the next 10 years, and when it does, the welfare state, one of the proudest things Germans ever built, the safety net that catches you when you get old or sick or unlucky, is the thing most likely to snap, and the people who will pay for it are the ones with the fewest votes. So, how does a careful, well organized country walk into a wall with its eyes open? Slowly. Germany industrialized early, and its birth rate started falling early too. For more than 50 years now, German women have had, on average, about 1.4 children each. To keep a population the same size, you need roughly 2.1. That gap compounds like debt running in reverse. Start with 100 Germans. They have 70 children. Those 70 have 49. The 49 have 34. The 34 have 24. Four generations and three-quarters of the country is simply not there. Nobody died. Nobody left. They were never born. And here is the thought that lets everybody relax. Fewer people on a crowded planet sounds almost like good news. Less traffic, less concrete. If that is where your brain just went, hold on to it, because that exact thought is how a country sleeps through 50 years. Because the problem was never how many Germans there are, it is the shape of them. While the babies stopped coming, something genuinely wonderful was happening at the other end of life. People started living far, far longer. Fantastic news on its own. Dangerous in combination. A country can survive being smaller. What it cannot survive is being top-heavy. So look at Germany right now. The median age is over 45, one of the oldest on the planet. Almost 2 in every 5 Germans are over 50. Nearly 1 in 4 is past 65. Only 1 in 8 is a child. That is a population pyramid balancing on its tip. And here is the strange part. Today, it still works. Industry is shrinking. The bureaucracy is suffocating. Growth is barely there. And yet the workforce is still big. The pensions still land. And the country is still rich, which is exactly why almost nobody is panicking. So watch what happens next. By 2036, roughly 13 million Germans born in the baby boom will have clocked out for the last time. Behind them stands a much thinner line of replacements, because those replacements were never born. As early as 2030, Germany could be staring at millions of jobs with nobody left to fill them. And here is what people get wrong about a country. You cannot simply scale it down. A society is not a spreadsheet. Pull enough people out of it, and things do not shrink politely. They break. Fewer workers means less tax money, and less tax money means fewer people running the things you never think about. You feel it first in small, ordinary ways. Your suitcase takes forever to appear at the airport. Your appointment with a specialist is already months away, and the queue is only getting longer. But your suitcase is not the emergency. The pensions are. German pensions are not a savings account with your name on it. There is no vault. Nothing is quietly growing in the dark, waiting for you. Roughly a fifth of every working German's wage is handed over this month and paid straight back out to pensioners this month. That is the entire design, and it works beautifully under exactly one condition, that there are always plenty of workers. In the 1960s, 5 working Germans carried every one retiree. By 2024, that is down to about 2.5. In the 30s, it heads for 2, and the timing is almost cruel, because the heaviest medical bills of a human life arrive roughly a decade after you stop working. So the very same shift that removes the payers delivers the patients. So if you assume the government must be quietly covering the difference, you are right. And that is the scandal. The gap has been there for decades. Since the 1970s, one government after another has plugged the pension hole with tax money and handed the problem to whoever came next. Every one of them passed it on, and then the road ran out. Last year, the German federal government spent about a quarter of everything it collects in taxes just to keep the pension system standing up. Let that land. 1 in every 4 tax euros. That is more than education, research, infrastructure, and defense combined. That is not a budget. That is a country deciding, very quietly, that its past comes before its future, and every euro poured into that hole is a euro that did not become childcare or schools or housing or lower taxes or a cheap loan for a young family or a cleaner power grid. Fine, you might say. Then young Germans should simply save for their own retirement. So look at the payslip. For an average German worker, taxes and social contributions take around 40% of the money. Near the top of the scale, it brushes 50, among the very highest in the world. Add rent that climbs every year on top of wages that barely move, and there is very little left to turn into a retirement fund. So the young pay in full for a pension almost none of them will ever collect on the same terms, because that pension only ever worked for one single generation. Their parents had more children, people died younger, the economy was flying. Take away all three, and the deal that looks so generous today is simply not on the table anymore. Then there's the house. Owning your own place is still one of the most reliable ways an ordinary person builds wealth and sleeps at night. In Germany, that door has been closing for years. Neighbors block new construction. Regulations pile up until building becomes absurdly expensive. Millions of people have moved to the country over recent decades, and every one of them needs somewhere to live. Demand keeps climbing. Supply does not. So in the cities where the young actually want to live and work, two people with good jobs and two salaries now do the arithmetic on an ordinary flat and quietly give up. And when a young couple cannot afford the space, they postpone the child, and that missing child is the next hole in the pension system. Follow that loop, because the loop is the whole story. No wealth, no home. No home, no children. No children, a worse crash. Meanwhile, parts of the media will explain very confidently that the real problem is that young people spend too much on coffee. And here is the cruelest part of all. They cannot vote their way out of it. When the largest and most reliable voting bloc in a democracy is old, every party competes for old voters, and no party gets rewarded at the ballot box for asking pensioners to accept less. And before this turns into a war between generations, it should not, because the older ones do not get out of this either. A pension system that cannot pay is a system that cannot pay for anybody. Millions of Germans who plan to retire will find themselves working years longer than they were promised. A retirement age of 70 is already being discussed out loud. Around 1 in 5 German pensioners already lives in poverty, and that is expected to get significantly worse in the 30s. And it is not only the pensions. The health and care systems Germans lean on could simply become unaffordable in the 30s because the carers are disappearing at the exact moment the patients multiply. Yes, older Germans as a group own most of the country's wealth. Yes, there is a real argument about taxing that wealth, and Germans have it furiously. But the hole is now so enormous that even a very big tax raid mostly buys time. It does not fix the arithmetic. Okay, so what about immigration? Whatever you happen to believe about it, for or against, park it for 90 seconds. We are going to judge it on exactly one question and nothing else. Can it fix the population crash? And the honest answer is no. Not because newcomers are unwelcome, and not because they do not work. Germany desperately needs workers, especially in nursing and care, where the shortage is already biting. Closing the border in the middle of that would be self-harm. But look at what stabilizing a population would actually take. People who move to Germany do not, on average, have more children than the locals, and where they do it first, their families converge with everybody else within about 2 generations, so the arithmetic never closes. You would need a fresh wave of newcomers forever, each wave aging and then needing the next wave to pay for its retirement, and the supply is drying up. Birth rates are falling almost everywhere on Earth, including in the countries people emigrate from today. Immigration over recent decades has already delayed this crash, and it will soften the landing, but it is a painkiller. It is not the surgery. So here is where the facts stop and the opinion starts. Germany really has only two roads: solve the demographic problem or watch the welfare state it spent generations building quietly stop working. This is the single biggest threat to how Germans live and to the glue that holds the society together. And nobody abroad should feel smug watching it, because this is not a German disease. Italy, Poland, and France are on the same road, some of them further along it. The United States, Canada, and Argentina are behind them, on the very same road. No country has pulled this off yet, and the reason is uncomfortable. A real fix demands sacrifice from everybody, and it is deeply unpopular with the people who decide elections, so politicians talk about almost anything else. It would mean taking part of that enormous quarter of the budget that flows to the old, especially to the comfortable old, and pointing it at the young instead, at housing, at childcare, at making it feel possible, even easy, to have a family. And more than any single policy, it means a culture that stops treating children as an expensive lifestyle choice and starts treating them as something a country is built to make room for. Demographics are slow and then they are sudden. The next 20 years in Germany are going to be hard. Exactly how hard is still, for a little while longer, a choice.